Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I see there are quite a lot of you that were queuing and waiting in line to jump on board. I'm so glad you're all here. Thanks for your message, Elena. I'm glad you're also here, and I hope that after today that your Lightroom will be slightly less of a mess than what it is. Yeah, unfortunately, spending a lot of time on Lightroom is quite important, and not only to get to grips of how the software works and to make use of it to its full capacity, but also to keep your files as neat and as orderly as possible. But yes, it is time consuming. Fortunately, Lightroom's a big part of my life. It's what I do most days. So at least I get paid to be online and on Lightroom, using it constantly. Thank you for all of you who are joining, who have joined. I see there's still quite a few participants jumping on board. So thank you very much. It's great to see all of you here. And thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me over the next couple of minutes. And I really do hope that after today's chat, you will have a better understanding of how survey mode in Lightroom works and what makes up a good image. So I'm just going to give it a few more minutes to, a minute or so, to give people some time to still join, and then we can get running. Hello Sam, thank you for your greetings from Germany. I hope things are going well out there, and that this whole global crisis isn't keeping you guys locked in too strenuously. Some good news from our side: our president is addressing the nation this evening again, and hopefully, and by the things I've seen in the media that's leaked out, our lockdown will be lifted slightly by the end of April. So I'm really hoping that those leaked messages are accurate, because yes, sitting indoors for a guy who loves being outdoors has been quite a challenge. I don't know how many times I've walked around the yard, and I've probably seen the same turtle dove 100 times, and it's just, it's getting quite hectic. So I need some more space. I need to be out in a park, to walk, to cycle, to feel the sun rising in the early morning and setting in the evening. So let's hope for the best. Hello Francis Malaba, thank you so much for joining. There is a great amount of people on here. Names I recognize, names I don't really recognize, but to everyone who has jumped on board here, thank you so very much. It's great having you on board. But I think let's get started, and let's get on with today's, or one of today's webinars at least. And we are going to be chatting about how to select your best images in Lightroom. And not only that, what I've also decided to do is let's run through what a good image really is. I mean, I've been photographing for quite a few years, and I have seen growth in my photography from the day I started up until this day, and it will continue to grow and to develop. And because that's the beauty about it, is you find yourself in one kind of style, working in one kind of way, and about 2-3 years down the line, you've adapted new ideas, new thought processes, and you end up with images that look totally different. And that's the beauty about it. It is never the same. And because of the digital world today, you can backtrack all that way to go and see how you've developed, how you've grown and improved as a photographer. I mean, I remember when I first started guiding, I started guiding in the Timbavati, and I had a little, well, it wasn't that little, it was quite big, but it was a bridge camera, so the lens couldn't detach or anything like that. It just had this massive optimal zoom, and I used to go out every day guiding my guests, not really having an idea on how to use this camera to its full potential. And every time I got an image of a lion or a leopard, an elephant, or something big, it was the most incredible photograph to me, which in all right, it should be. You should be proud of your work. But today I sit now and look back at those photographs, and this particular lion image, yes, he had beautiful light on his face and his eyes were lit up. It was absolutely phenomenal, but there was a thick tree like this, and you could literally just see his eye popping through this tree. And it was actually, today, I'm ashamed that I put it out. I shouldn't be, but it just shows and proves to you that you do grow as time goes on. And if you're willing to put in the time, you can, and you will see results and changes. So I think I'm going to quickly share a screen with all of you. I see, before I do that, I see a chat just came in. Hello Adil, thank you so much for joining. So there is going to be options for Q&A. If you do have any questions, please feel free to leave them. But while I'm on Lightroom, it's quite difficult for me to access these questions. So I'm going to share the screen with you all now, and I will get to all your questions and answer them once we're done with this. So before I get to running through survey mode and kind of showing you how we can use Lightroom to our benefit in order to speed up the workflow to choose your best possible image in a sequence of images, let's first start off with what makes a good image. And firstly, obviously taking the photograph is the only way in which you can capture an image, but there are a few vital keys that you need to bear in mind to ensure that it is a good looking image. I often, out on safari, will be hosting a group of guests. I've got multiple memory cards I import every 2 to 3 days or so, but I'm very seldom do I edit, look, sort, process, get rid of junk images, whatever it may be, while out on safari. This particular sighting, for example, was in the Masai Mara, and it was such a cool scene. We had crossed the river because we operate in the triangle, but we went over to the other side of the river, to the dark side, and because we had a call from guys on that side saying that a female cheetah and her 4 cubs were on a, yes, if I recall correctly, I think it was a gazelle carcass, and that they had pulled down just after lunchtime somewhere. So we had left camp early, shot out there, and it was just such a interactive sighting. These cubs were going at each other, they were getting aggressive with each other, each tackling their own piece of the carcass. As you can see, this individual's got a leg. Mom was there sitting next to them, all proud, watching her little ones eat and feed. And it was just such an emotional sighting. And the reason why I don't touch or look at my photographs while out on safari is because I've still got that emotional attachment to the scene. And I love this particular image. I was so happy that this cub had picked up the leg, came walking towards us. Great implied movement, his legs up, and he's coming towards us. It was such a cool scene. But what really saddened me, and let me zoom in here for you, is notice that his face is not sharp. So the first topic that makes up a good image is that it has to be in focus and it has to be sharp. So if I was trying to show off his beautiful chest muscles and the beautiful pattern and coat on his chest, I would have succeeded because it's nice and sharp in this area. Whereas this leg that it's carrying, his face is not sharp, which sadly makes what could have been a great image not that good anymore because my focus was off. And as much work as you would like to try and do in Lightroom to try and sharpen up this image, trust me, it is not going to happen. If it's out of focus or blurry, it's going to remain that way because this is just not in focus at all. So that's the first point that you should look at when it comes to, is my photograph good or not? You need to have good focus. Moving on, eyes are quite something. So eye contact, having a clear view of the eyes are quite something, because, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me, looking at this particular image, those eyes are what you're locking onto, yes? Because us as humans, we engage and interact with each other, with people and our pets every single day. And when you speak to your dog or your cat and it looks up at you, there's eye contact. So there's something about eyes that just draw us in. And if you do not have clear eye contact with your animal or subject in the frame, you are losing quite a lot of value. So it's important to make sure that the eyes are open, there's good light in them, and that you maintain good focus on and around the eyes. Let's run through a few examples here. Look at this massive male lion walking in Madekwe Game Reserve. Notice how his one eye is open, there's implied movement, I've got his whole body in, that tail's flicking up. It's a great image, but there's just that one eye is a bit weird. He's like walking with a closed eye. It's like he's winking at us. So there's something just a little bit off there. It's not saying that this image is destroyed and you need to throw it away, but you may have better within a sequence. Because I didn't sit there and just go, okay, snap, I got one shot of the lion, put my camera down. You take multiple shots, and then when you're going through that sequence, look for ones where both of his eyes are open. There's still that implied movement. Sadly, I don't have that tail there anymore, but I would rather sacrifice not having his tail there. But I've got both of his eyes locked straight onto me, looking at me. You can see both his pupils. So therefore, this image is a lot more powerful than that one would be. I'm sure you do all agree with me on this. Let's run through a few more examples. Lioness is drinking in a muddy pool in the Masai Mara. So we've got one girl looking straight at us, boom, head on. The other girl's eyes are open, which is, again, it's a great image because the eyes are open, there's good focus, you can see everything. But in that sequence, there must be one where all of them look at you at once, or at least more than one of them look at you at once. And boom, there we go. All three girls, ears, heads, eyes, facing directly towards us while they're drinking, makes for a much more appealing looking image. Yeah. Here as well, incredible image. Male lion walking straight towards us in the Masai Mara. Implied movement, his foot's up, coming straight towards us. And yes, you have clear view and visibility of the eyes. His eyes are wide open, there's beautiful color in them. But in a sequence, I'm sure there must be one where he's looking straight towards me, and I found it. And to me, because all of his attention's right on me, coming straight towards me, he's looking straight into the middle of my lens. When my viewer now looks at this image, they get drawn into that lion's face, into his eyes, and that's where they fixate on. They just look at that face the whole time. Whereas there, his attention's pointing off to the side. So you as the viewer are going to sit there and think, I wonder what was happening over there. But now here, boom, he's looking at you. So sitting here, this male lion coming straight towards you, your viewer's going to sit there and say, yes, it feels like he's really walking towards me. He's coming towards me. And this therefore makes for an appealing image. But in saying eye contact is vitally important when it comes to particularly wildlife photography, sometimes it's not necessary, because or in a sighting like this, for example, cats or lion in particular are extremely social cats. In fact, the only large social cat in the world. And large social cat, they're the only social cat in the world, put it that way. Even your domestic cats don't like each other, believe it or not. These guys have adapted to build these bonds and live in prides in order to obviously live a sustainable life, hunt bigger animals. They're big cats, they need a lot of food. So they've adapted that social behavior and that tight-knit society in order to improve their chances when it comes to their hunting and raising their babies and so on. And with the social life, one way in which they can maintain that bond are through activities like this, when lions get up, walk to each other, rub heads, and just show that affection towards each other is one way in which these cats build a stronger bond and maintain the current bond. So if the mood in your image is something like this, where it's a loving, caring, and tender moment, and her eyes are closed, enjoying that moment, rubbing up against her sister or a mom or an aunt, whoever it may be, her eyes closed here are adding value to the image. This, for example, as well. You can see this is a very tranquil scene. It's very early morning, the light's low, looking at those beautiful reflections. The water is still and calm. This hippo is having a sleep. So my message here is trying to show all of you now sitting here looking at this image is that, wow, that looks super peaceful. Hippo is having a nice nap after a long day. And if his eyes were open, it would have still been a good shot. But there's more meaning behind this image, to me at least, now that his eyes are closed. But for the most part, eyes should be open to maintain and draw your viewers' attention into and onto those eyes. Another vital thing to do is, I'm not too sure if this is in anyone's way, is to keep your eyes on what the ears are doing. And I know in the moment it's very difficult to keep track of everything because there's settings, there's this, there's that, the animal's moving, I'm going to miss the shot, and it gets quite frantic. But I'm sure for a lot of you who have joined me out on safari before would have heard me in moments like this. You would have heard me say, watch those ears, wait for both ears to come forward. It's vitally important. Reason being, this is not a bad image. It's a great image. Her eyes coming our direction. She's standing beautifully in the fork of that tree. Focus is good, color is good, everything's great. But, oh, let me just click on Lightroom here again, sorry. Notice now that both of those ears are forward. Her attention's a lot more fixed on what is happening behind our vehicle. And with both ears forward, eyes forward, and her head's a bit more raised now, she's looking with intent. There's a lot more emotion in this image now. And because both of her ears are coming forward, again, this visual energy is going to be portraying something very important in your image. And this is, okay, this girl is really focused on what's happening here, what's going on. Here's another example. A little wild dog. This is about a year-old pup lying, enjoying the morning sun just after they had snacked on something. You can see the legs are full of blood. And he's lying there, ears are pretty much flopped to the side. A great image. Again, it's in focus, great color, great depth, blurring out that background. But with both ears popping forward, there's just a little bit more value added there. Because his visual energy is running along his body, his face is pointing that way, your story is heading in that direction. And now with both ears also pointing forward in that direction, you are going to leave your viewers sitting wondering a lot more about this scene. It's like, yes, were the other dogs playing there? Were they still feeding there? Why is this little dog's ears pointing in that direction so fixedly? I hope this is all making sense for you. But these are just a few things that you can look out for when you start working through your images, trying to sort and find the best possible one. Body language, also vitally important. So not only is it now the eyes, the ears, but it's the entire body. Like these little pups, you can see in the background there, they're still, I'm pretty sure that these pups that we're looking at now is a rewind of a couple of months to the pup we just looked at earlier with the ears. I think one of these puppies must be the one we just looked at, if I recall correctly. Anyway, but now these puppies are all over the show. They're busy. The one smelling looks like mom or dad's scat, some poop. This one's biting a stick. That one's just looking. So it's a cute image. But if you wait for that moment where something behind you draws their attention and they all kind of just freeze and lift their heads up, ears forward, looking at you, it's just a more powerful image drawing you in. Yeah. Look at this leopard, for example. Also a great image, beautiful color, beautiful depth, exposures on point, everything is great, but you can enhance the look of the image. Just after this leopardess was lying, sleeping or relaxing here, she had just chased a scrub hare through that thicket at the back there, Tambuti thicket, and missed. She made her way to a termite mound, went and sat and slept on there for about 10 minutes. And then when she got up, she then picked up on the movement of the warthog behind our vehicle. And now you can see in this body language, she's sitting upright, her head's held high, eyes are extremely focused, ears are forward, her paws are in a position where she's leaning forward looking and really focused on what's happening to what looks like me here, sitting in the vehicle taking the shot, but it was the animals moving behind me. So look out for that body language as well. Implied motion. This is also vital and extremely important, excuse me. Obviously, this is just a giraffe standing in the dry lake in Amboseli. Incredible image because of the simplicity thereof. This animal's just standing in the middle of, it's literally feels like the moon, but just very, very warm. And just standing there, both ears are forward, looking directly towards us. Beautiful image. But again, there could be ones that look a little bit better. And when you imply motion or movement, this is adding great value to your image. Now, between these two images, I will keep both because they're both great images. But in my personal opinion, this one is the better and the best out of these two. Yeah, because it's moving, it's running, there's a little bit of action, but still yet so very simple. Whereas in this scene, it's just standing there, it's tranquil, it's a calm moment, and it's happily just standing there looking at you. So what I mean by going through all of these processes isn't that you have to go delete every giraffe that's standing still and rather have one where its foot's up. This is also portraying a great story and value, but in its own sense, in its own right. Just for the purpose of this exercise, out of these two, this would be the better. A morning sunrise in the Amboseli, for example. This isn't a spectacular place for sunrises. If you love African sunrises, the Amboseli is absolutely phenomenal. This area is just outside the lodge that we make use of. Elephant, zebra, wildebeest, giraffe, everything make use of this path every single evening and every single afternoon. And the opportunities are just endless there for the first 40 minutes of the morning. But looking at this particular image, this could just be this elephant standing there. He's all four his feet on the ground, and that dust being kicked up at the bottom over here could be due to him breathing out of that trunk. But if you can find a moment where that foot is up and there's that implied movement, this is proving to your viewer sitting there looking at the scene, okay, the dust is being created by his feet that are moving, because you can see there's no dust being blown up here at the moment, but also this foot that is up like that is just proving to your viewer that this elephant is walking forward, he's moving. So this is just adding great value, is this implied movement. And then moving on to these busier scenes, and this can get quite tricky. It's not always the easiest when there's a massive herd of animals or if they spread far and wide. It can get quite challenging to capture the scene accurately. And a lot of the times what you should just use then is the natural flow and the natural movement of these animals. And again, this is just stressing the importance of sometimes shooting a little bit wider. Reason being here is because this natural flow started way off past the scene over here, but obviously I couldn't shoot wide enough. But I'm using the movement of this animals from my lower left corner, cut across the frame, and they curve around back up on towards the horizon. I'm just using that natural flow, resulting in leading lines. So it's forcing your viewer to look through that scene and find a way through it. Like, where does it start? Where is it going? Where does it end? And everything in between. Here as well, this motion coming in off the banks, entering the river and making their way towards the exits on the opposite end of the river. Always look for that motion, look for them moving. And this can happen prior to you taking the shot. In scenes like this, for example, where it's absolute mayhem. If you've ever been to the Masai Mara during the Great Migration, it is, I mean, when those animals start crossing, it literally is a spray and pray kind of moment. You don't like, okay, I'm waiting for that wildebeest, like number 4,896, to get to the water to jump, and then I'm going to take the shot. That doesn't happen. You just go absolutely mad. There's shutters everywhere. It sounds like a war. It's like triggers going. It's going absolutely mental. And then the sorting process thereafter is quite difficult. It takes quite a lot of time. But this is what you need to come and look for are these lines and the motion that's taking your viewer's eye on a journey throughout the scene, from top to bottom, from left to right, right to left, whatever it may be. Sometimes you can also, in very busy scenes where there's a lot of animals and there's not really a flow and a line of them moving, a good opportunity to maximize on is use the natural flow while you're sitting still. So you can see here, for example, 2 zebra there and 2 zebra there, weren't moving too much, but these wildebeest were coming in and out of the Mara River. So they're walking up and down the banks of the Mara River, coming in for a drink, moving back up, coming down for a drink, moving back up. So what I had done here is I created motion and a sort of flow in my story here, just by slowing down my shutter speed, ensuring that these guys were standing still, took the shot, and the motion and that movement of wildebeest obviously adds value to this story. Moving on into another busy scene, and a lot of the times when scenes are busy like this, if there's a herd of animals or whatever it may be, or a pride of lions, I'm sure you've often heard, if you've joined Wild Lion Safari, you would have heard myself or one of the other guides who was hosting would say, wait for the separation. Is there separation between these animals? So this means if there is a herd of giraffe walking on the horizon and the sun's busy setting, if you have a giraffe here, a giraffe there, a giraffe there, a giraffe, it gets all kind of clustered. But if they're walking along the horizon and there's separation between them, giraffe here, giraffe there, giraffe there, giraffe there, there's gaps between them. That's the separation we're talking of. And sometimes it is not easy, particularly for when the next images pop up. You can't really plan that because you don't know where these animals are going to be going. So then again, just make sure your focus is on the subject you want to focus on, which in this case is the lion. And you just need to, again, spray and pray. Take as many photographs as you can. The beauty of the digital world is you can delete the junk that you don't want. But you want to ensure that you can clearly see, okay, there's a lioness there. That's why these zebra are running. Here's a zebra, there's one, there's one, there's one. In this next scene, it gets a little busier. Boom. Now the zebras are a bit closely clustered together, but you can see each one clearly. But the main thing that I want to portray in this image and to kind of show my viewers is why are they so frantically running and look scared for their life? Oh, it's because there's a lioness sitting right here. You can see how she's kind of stopping, the sand shooting up forward as she's braking to turn to go tackle. I think there was this particular one coming out right here. That's who she was going for. But say, for example, this zebra's face or chest was right up against her face or just past her, and you saw the back of the lion's bum and the tail flick up. That's not the best image in the scene. That's not the one you want to go for because your lion is now hiding behind the zebra. So this, again, sequences like this come down to sorting your images in Lightroom, and you can't really plan for this out in the field. So this leads me on into how we can go about choosing the best particular image in a sequence. And there's a great tool in Lightroom called survey mode. I'm not too sure if you've heard of this before, but survey mode, to me, is the greatest tool when it comes to sorting out a particular sequence of images that look identical. So a couple of days ago, I had run through a sorting process here as to how I rate my images, why I rate them in this way, and why I do it in that particular order or fashion. But these images are new arrivals to this collection, these lion images. They weren't in there, and that's why they don't have any colors and only all got 1-star ratings. So what I had mentioned is that when I work through a selection, I pick my images, the ones I want to keep with a white flag, and then say, for example, I didn't want this image, I'd hit X to reject it. It'll give me a little black flag on the top left. So I know all my black flags are the ones I'm going to delete, or the ones with the white flags are the ones I want to keep. And once that process is done, and I've deleted the junk of the day or of the trip, I then do a phase 2 and I run through that selection again. And then I start star rating them from star 1 to 5 using keys 1 to 5. And usually, and what I'd mentioned on that day is if there are images that I'm unsure of, if I don't want to, I'm not sure if I want to keep them, if they're good enough, or in a sequence like this, because they're all the same, I give them all a 1 star, well, not the same, but very similar. I'll give them all a 1 star, which will then allow me to come back to all of them later to use survey mode to go choose the best possible 1 or 2 out of that whole sequence. So that's why you'll see there's still only 1 star on these particular images, because I now have to run through this to go and see what is the best possible one. So let's get into this. You'll notice that I've highlighted this first image. I will then move down to, or move my cursor down to the last image, push and hold the shift key, and then left click my mouse. You will then notice that all of these images are now highlighted, yeah? If I only wanted to highlight the first 3, for example, highlight the first one, push and hold my shift key, go and select it only selects those 3. But I'm obviously going to be working with all of them, so I'm pushing and holding shift, clicking on my last image, and they are then all selected. So the shortcut going into survey mode is a simple one. Once you've selected all your images, you push the letter N. N for Nigel, N for Nanny, Nancy. There we go. So once I've pushed N, what happens here is you will notice down here in my film strip, I still have all of those images in the collection down there, as well as these ones that are obviously now highlighted and selected. And what survey mode does, it doesn't take it out the collection and put it somewhere else. It's just because you've highlighted those images, by pushing into enter survey mode, what will happen is it will only reference those images and still keep them within that particular collection or folder, whatever you're working in. And let's run through this process quickly. So as you will notice now, all of these images that, I'm not too sure if my face on this bar is in anyone's way, but I'm just going to come put it down at the bottom. For if it is, you can still see my face. But what you will see now is I've got my selection of these 9 images. And now, because they're all right next to each other, they're large enough to see what's good or what's not good, because they're a similar sequence, I can now come out and pinpoint and be very critical on why this image may be better than this image or vice versa. You will also notice once I hover over it, because I haven't picked them, I don't have a white flag or a rejection flag on them, but they've all got their 1 star rating. Another thing you'll notice is when I do hover over a particular image, notice in the bottom right hand corner down here, a little X pops up. This little X is going to help us eliminate the images we don't want in here through the process of elimination. You are now going to go and choose your least favorite images and get them out of survey mode, because now when I go and click this little X, it's going to take one image out, the one I've deleted, well, not deleted, but removed from survey mode. When I do this, it doesn't remove the image out of that folder or the collection that you're working in. It doesn't delete the image. It just takes it out of survey mode. Okay, so let's work through this quickly. How I would go about selecting the best images out of this sequence and why. Let's start on the top left 2 over here, the one in the middle and the one on the top left. Very similar looking images, yeah? Body languages are the same. Only one slight difference is over here, this male's paw is a little bit higher, and you can see his mouth a lot better. You can see that aggression and that anger and that vicious side coming out of them. On this female as well, you can see her ears are back. And you can see that head wrinkling behind her. So you can see she's tense and she's snarling, and her mouth's kind of looking similar to this, just on the other end. So between these 2 very similar images, I will say this is a better one, because that action right over there is drawing my viewer's eye in a lot more. So I'm going to simply go and click on that little X, and it gets rid of it. This one still remains. Okay, there is now a left paw fighting scene over here. What is better? So looking at these two images, paw in great positions, here he's actually making contact and hitting her, which I see more value in right now. And also if you look at this girl's tail, it's kind of a distraction to me, whereas here it's not there. It's kind of like spot the difference, isn't it? It's like a game. But there's no tail here. Over here, his mouth, yeah, I can see a few teeth and he looks a little bit angry. But here you can really see this guy's pissed off. He's not happy with this girl. This is a particular Charleston male who had that tooth kind of hanging on a piece of skin. So quite a good value add is this tooth sticking out like that. You can see more of his teeth. You can see the snarling and a bit more of his eyes. So between these two images, I think this is the better one. So I'm going to simply go left click on that little X, and there it's kept this guy in here for me. Now moving on, we've got a right hand or right paw action. And there's aggression coming in here. And looking at these two images, I would say I like the claws there. You can see the claws. You can see his mouth. That tooth there. Over here, paw is way high up. You can see her snarling position's much better. You can see the wrinkles on the back of her head. You can still see his mouth. And so this is now becoming tough. I think in all honesty, because we can see more of his face here, it's a much better image. I'm going to go and get rid of that. Notice what's happening as you get less images in the survey mode as well. You're getting much bigger thumbnails or images being represented back to you. And therefore, this is a great thing of eliminating a lot of them. Obviously, if you go and choose a sequence of 40 images, your thumbnails are going to be tiny like that, and this is not going to work. So I would say a maximum of about 10 images for this to work well. That's already even pushing it. 9 was also, you really have to like lean in to come and see what's happening. Looking at this scene in the sequence, he's getting his own back at him. He's getting whacked in the face by this girl. But out of these particular images right now, not the best or most powerful image. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And then looking at these last two over here, quite simple, pretty much the same body languages over here. You can see more of his face there. The tail's flicking up on the right-hand side one. This is a more powerful image. So I'm just going to go and get rid of that. Now you're left with 4 images. And the choice is yours. You can narrow it down and go all the way through down to one particular image. And in my opinion, in all honesty, this is going to be very difficult because they, to me, all great images and they all hold a very different and separate story and will obviously tell a different or send a different message across to the viewer watching it. For example, like here, the bottom right-hand one, it seems like the girls are winning this fight. This boy's on his right foot, his left foot's coming up, and he's wanting to escape. Whereas over here, this boy's hand or paw is right above this girl's head, growling at her and probably just about to make contact. There he's already made contact. So it's proved to my viewer now looking at this, okay, look, this guy's hitting them. And then the top left-hand one, again, is a different story. This girl's definitely the dominant one. She's attacking this brutal face head on. This girl's standing back. So they're all different stories. So in my opinion, these are my top 4 out of the 9, and I'm going to keep all 4 and make them my top 4 because they're telling different stories. So what I will do now, I'm not going to go and get rid of each and every one of these out of survey mode. All I'm going to do is hit G, and this will take me back to grid view, so G for grid. And what you will notice is coming out of survey mode, remember when we went into survey mode, excuse me, all of these images were selected, yes? So if I come out of survey mode without hitting X on any of them, they would have all still been highlighted. But because I went through that process of elimination to get rid of the ones that weren't the most powerful, because I hit X on them, it basically deselected it within the collection or the folder that I'm in. But because I didn't hit X on the 4 images that I wanted to keep, they are still highlighted. So now simply what I'll do I'll hit number 2, and you'll notice that all of those get a 2-star rating. And this is now, if I go and do work down here again and go in there and do something, come back, go in there and do something, come back. Later on, because I've marked all of those as 2, I will know that these 4 with the 2 stars are the ones that I had kept from the sequence. So you can go and delete all of the 1 stars now if you'd like, or if you want to keep them all, keep them at a 1 star or a 0-star rating just by hitting 0, highlight them all, and do that. Just hit the 0 key. Now you've got no stars on them. You'll see more clearly which are the ones you have kept. And then you can go furthermore to color code them or star rate them as and how you see fit. But obviously this whole process comes down to personal preference and what you think is best. You may think that the 4 I chose as my best images aren't the best. To me, they are. And one vital thing that you as the photographer have to remember is you should never shoot to please others. Shoot to please yourself. If you shoot to please others, you're going to be showing off a fake representation of who you are. If you shoot to please yourself and you're happy with and proud of what you're creating and selecting and keeping and working with and showing off to the world on social platforms, then you're winning, because you're being honest with yourself and you allowing, even if you sit there and think, oh yes, but this, my image isn't as good as Mike's image. You cannot compare my level 15 to your level 3. You'll get there eventually if you put in the time, the hustle and the grind, but just keep going at it. Be proud of the work you're creating, and don't let anyone say, well, that's a horrible image, you should rather use this one. Stick to what you believe in, and if you believe that that particular image is your best and your favorite, then so may it be. You stick to it. So just to recap, make sure your images are in focus, make sure you maintain eye contact as much as possible and that those eyes are sharp and clear. Be sure that you know what the ears are doing. Keep body language and implied motion in mind as well to enhance the look and feel of your images. And in busy scenes, use the natural flow to help you create a more impressive looking image. I hope this has helped. I see there are a few questions that have popped in, so let's get to that. Sam says, I would love to see your first pics and see the progress you have made. I did write a blog way back when I just started off with Wildeye, and it was a blog about my first images. I do not have them on this hard drive, otherwise I would have pulled them up now to show you. But please send me a message on Instagram or on WhatsApp, on an email, whatever it may be, and I'll happily share that out. But yeah, they were quite rough, and I've come a very, very long way, even if I have to say so myself. Okay, going into questions. Charlotte, which is more important, ears or eyes? Okay, this is a great question. I would say eyes are more important. It doesn't help if this leopard's sitting looking directly into your lens, ears are forward and it's sitting like this, eyes closed. Absolutely no value. A deeper way in which we will engage one-on-one as humans. I mean, if I'm sitting here talking to you this whole time with my eyes closed, it's going to be really awkward and weird, and there's not going to be that connection. Even though I can't see you, you can't see me. So when I'm speaking to you, you're looking at my eyes, you're looking at my face, and this is how you engage with someone. And it's the same as when it comes to wildlife photography. If this animal's sitting there with its eyes closed, ears forward, you can take the shot, it can be pin sharp and in focus and look beautiful, but it's not going to have that same drawing value as open eyes would. So I would say eyes are definitely a lot more important than ears. Thanks for that question, Charlotte. Tracy, thanks so much. Appreciate the detail. Makes so much difference and powerful. There we go. Thank you for your comment, Tracy. And it does definitely make a big difference in order to make more appealing and more powerful looking images. Yelena, I have got 2 here from you. I feel like there was a blog or other tutorial about how to use Lightroom collections somewhere on the Wildeye archive. Do you have any recollection of this and where I may find it? So collections, I know if you go and look on the Wild Eye YouTube channel, so obviously everything in and around Wild Eye has got a major facelift right now with a new website. Krista's just joined us, so she's going to be running a lot of our content side of things. And one of these things are going to be a facelift on YouTube as well. So before this happens, jump onto YouTube and go type in Wild Eye, go into our channel. And in there, Yelena, you will get great Lightroom collection advice. And it talks you through step by step. So, and the great thing about listening to things on YouTube is you can listen to a few minutes, push pause, go and do it. Come back, rewind if you missed something, or start, resume, listen to the information, push pause, and go do it yourself. So go check out on the Wild Eyes YouTube channel, Yelena, and you will find it there. I see there's a second question that came in from Yelena. What do you do with your good and not great images? That's also a great question. And this again comes down to personal preference. I mean, for me, for example, because I'm very blessed to get out into the field on a regular basis, or used to at least, hopefully we can again one day soon. But I'm sitting with a collection of images on this hard drive of close to 50,000 images, and a lot of which is still fairly much junk and things I don't really need to keep. But again, it's that emotional attachment you have to the images. You want to keep them because it was such a special moment. Whereas for people like yourself, Yelena, who don't get out as frequently as I do, you don't have to be as harsh as I am. I mean, when I go on a safari, say a week in the Masai Mara or the best of Kenya or best of Serengeti, whatever it may be, I take on average about maybe 2,000, 2,500 images throughout the 10 days. I then get back, and once I start deleting it, I probably end up with, after my first sort and get rid of all the junk, I end up with about 500 images, depending on the kind of action and the scenes we were presented with. Whereas I know, and if you want to put this and compare it to something, a lot of the guests that join me on, say, the Best of Kenya shoot triple, sometimes 4 times more images than I do. And not because what we're seeing isn't special and I don't want to photograph it, or I don't want to keep those kinds of images. It's just because 3 years ago when I started hosting the Best of Kenya, I had seen many scenes like that before. And so that's when I captured those moments. That's when I shot it. So you become a little bit more selective. And this goes hand in hand with what do you do with your good and not so great images. That's entirely up to you. What I do is I keep them for a little while because I might need them again for blog content or whatever it may be, or exercises like this. I mean, if I went to go and delete every single one of those line sequence images and only kept 3 or 4 best, I would not have been able to do this webinar today to give you that sequence of images. So I usually just keep them at a 1-star rating, and I don't color label them because my ready to go images, the ones I want to put onto Instagram, go green. The ones I want to use in blogs go yellow. So this all comes down to personal preference. So the good and not so great images, if they're really junk, which majority of my images are on a safari, because a lot of the time you spray and pray and you don't need to keep all of them, I delete loads of images, thousands as I've mentioned. But then the not so great ones that I have kept, I keep for maybe a later stage, but I give them 1 star and I don't color grade them, and they just they're there. They hover there, and if I ever need to, I can come and dig back in the archives years down the line. So I hope that answers you. Marilyn, thank you for your question. I still have almost 8,000 plus photos from the Best of Kenya in July 2018. Can't bear to delete them yet. And that's perfectly okay, Marilyn. That's a lot of photos. It really is. But as I mentioned, I'm in a fortunate position where I get to go and host the Best of Kenya twice a year. And I have been for the last 3.5 years. And so I don't have to keep all 8,000 photos. Whereas you, on the other hand, you don't get to go there every single year. For a lot of people, and I know it is the case, you will go to Africa or on a safari maybe only once in your life. You've saved your whole life to keep these to keep these moments. Why would you want to save all this money, go somewhere, capture these moments, these incredible experiences and memories, and then go delete 3/4 of them. It doesn't make sense. So hold on to them. If it doesn't feel right, you can hit that delete key, Marilyn. Hold on to them for as long as you possibly can, if not forever. Why not? If not, why not? Thank you for sharing that, Marilyn. And then Anne. Where did that go? There it is. Okay, my compromise on choosing images. The really great ones in a photo book, the others remain on a hard drive. That's brilliant. I mean, I saw your mountain gorilla photo book that you had shared with me, Anne, and it was incredible. And that's the best way to go about it, is where you put your best images is entirely up to you. Anne, for example, makes incredible photo books that she can share with family and friends who come and visit her for a cup of coffee, a gin or a wine or whatever it may be. Some people enter competitions. I mean, if we're not in it for the competition side of things and to win competitions and take this potential opportunity away from our guests, but if, for example, we did, I wouldn't use my best images on Instagram. I will save those very best images to send into competitions, and then the not so great images I will use on Instagram. But obviously our main target and goal for putting things out on here and to be very social on Instagram and so is to show off the potential things that guests who join us can potentially see. So we have to put out the best stuff onto our social platforms. But that's a good way to think about it, and put your best shots in a photo book and keep the not so great on a hard drive. That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, Anne. Okay, so Becky is asking, because Anne won't see this. Oh no, she will. My bad. There we go. Thank you. Thank you for being on it, Anne, and for answering Becky's question. But that's about it for today's chat, everyone. I hope that you have learned something worthwhile when it comes to what makes up a good image and how you can go about sorting and processing through a selection of images. And hopefully you can adapt to this and find an easy way to manage this workflow. Is there any more questions coming in from anyone? If you answered it, it didn't come through to me. Okay, that's Becky. So Becky, Anne says, in Germany, we have, I don't know how you pronounce this, Cewe. It's C-E-W-E. So I don't know if that's a company who creates or helps you put together books. It may be a website. So that is C-E-W-E. Go and check that out. But yeah, I saw her answer pop up here. Yelena, you're most welcome. I also do look forward to the next one, and I cannot wait to have you and all these other incredible people on here join me. There is some exciting stuff coming up next week. I'm chatting about a few interesting things. I've got 3 webinars lined up, so I look forward to chatting to you all. Marilyn, yes, I like a photo book idea as well. Didn't see the company name. So Marilyn, the company name in Germany is C-E-W-E. I've tried to pronounce that once. I'm not going to keep trying. Adil, you're most welcome. And then Becky, you're most welcome. Marilyn, most welcome. And it is books and prints. This is coming from Anne, Becky, and Marilyn. It is books and prints. Not sure how international they are. So if you want to print, if you want to make books, look for Cewe. C-E-W-E. But that's about it for today's chat. Again, I thank every single one of you who had joined. I really do appreciate your time, your ears, and please, if you have any recommendations with regards to webinars that we should do in the future, anything you want to learn, please get in touch with me so that we can put things that you would want to hear and you would want to listen to together, obviously to add the maximum amount of value. And as I've mentioned in my previous webinar as well, Wilder has ventured off into a fairly new platform, whereas here on Zoom, You guys can book one-on-one sessions with either myself, Gerry, Marlon, Andrew, whoever it may be, through a Calendly link that I can send you if you would like. And just get in touch with me after this this webinar via email, and I can send you, or Instagram, and I can send you this link, and then you can book myself or any one of the other guides for an hour on particular days and certain hour slots for one-on-one Lightroom tuition. So if this is of interest to you, please get in touch. And yeah, thank you again. It was a fun one. I really enjoyed this, and I do look forward to chatting to every single one of you again in the future episodes. Your questions were incredible, so please keep them coming in the future episodes. It makes my life a little bit easier. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you all have, what's your email, Monique Adams? It's Michael, so M-I-C-H-A-E-L, at wild-I, so that's E-Y-E, the word I, .co.za. So Michael at wild-I.co.za. So you can send me an email to that email address, Monique, and I will happily forward you that particular link. But yeah, I hope you all have a great day further, a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Stay happy, stay safe, and most importantly, stay positive. Thanks again, and bye-bye for now.